Okay, I'm doing this video primarily so I have a record. It'll be put on the internet. The only people who are going to have access to this are going to be the media sites that I'm sending these packets out to. Now, these packets contain information regarding, well, I started gathering information based on the fact that I was set up by a West Virginia police officer. Later on, I tried to file a complaint against this officer, and everything got overlooked, swept under the rug in his own department. So, what happened was I called the FBI. Now, when I called the FBI, the agent I talked to, who didn't identify himself, threatened myself, threatened uh, one of the girls that was forced to set me up, Ashley Redden, and my mom and everything else. Well, he implied a threat. So, knowing that the implied threat and him saying that he wouldn't do anything because Trooper Duckworth was his buddy, I decided to just remind him that since he implied a threat, I wasn't quite so complacent. And I directly threatened to kill him and everything with a badge and Beckley and everything else. The reason I did this, and it wasn't that I intended to carry out this threat, it was because I figured he would get a warrant for me. If he got a warrant for me, that meant motions of discovery, and I would have got evidence or the recorded phone conversation between me and this FBI agent. A warrant was issued for my arrest for assaulting a police officer because of that threat. Um, It was later dismissed by motion from my attorney due to insufficient evidence for the warrant. Now, the reason why that was because the FBI agent didn't put his real name on there. He put a false name, Michael Kaczynski. His real name is FBI agent Michael Hayden. My present court appointed attorney used to work for a lawyer's office known as Hayden Hart. Anyway, just give you an idea here how fucked up the whole situation is. Since then, I've had multiple situations of people trying to get me entrapped, and all kinds of other things. I've been going through this for 6 years. So I'm making this record that I'm going to put on the internet. It's going to be an unlisted YouTube channel. Just for the simple fact that I want this record. Now, the reason I'm making this record is because I've recently had a individual. His name is Brandon Smith. He's 16. He's a friend of a friend. Uh, and now my friend, um, Eric Harris, he he's been brought. His name's been brought into some stuff for something he may or may not have done. I really don't believe he did it. Uh, and upon his arrest, they were trying to make him tell on me. So they'd make the charges go away if he would have, said everything was on me and everything else. Well, his friend Brandon Smith has gone to jail for attempted murder. Only did 18 months. Got out as a juvenile. Not a whole lot of it makes a lot of sense. The problem is, and as it escalates into it, I believe this Brandon Smith is also a informant for the FBI because I've managed to track everything back to an FBI agent known as Michael Hayden. He's the senior FBI agent in the Southern West Virginia office of the FBI. He lives in Princeton, West Virginia, in a gated community. Um, Very hush hush and very isolated. Anyways, now the FBI's counterintelligence program, which mimics the CIA's counterintelligence program, has been reputed many times or reported many times for basically falsifying evidence, setting people up. Conversations that were supposedly recorded, that should have been recorded, were not recorded, and there's a lot of vague loopholes. Um, in these packets, I'm sending out the stuff that where it incorporates the situation with Taryn Price, an individual who made an attempt on my life. Um, he's also associated with other FBI informants, Tammy Violet, John and Casey Frank, Richard Frank, this guy James, who's supposed to be one of the top guys in the Avengers, who's also an FBI informant and police informant. Uh, Basically, all these people are going around passing out counterfeit money. Uh, God, stealing, selling drugs, committing all kinds of crime, and they're getting away with it because they're informants. Now, the fact of the matter is that they're arranging for most of the crime to occur. In fact, like I said, the FBI's counterintelligence program is well known or well reported for falsifying evidence or inciting terrorist style attacks. Since all this has happened, I have been physically assaulted. I've had my name dragged through the mud, defamed. Taryn Price has made attempts on my life. Other individuals have made attempts on my life, and the police turned a blind eye. This has forced me to basically be stuck with no means of defending myself or no one to look out for me. And if I take anything to my own hands, then of course I'm the bad guy, I'm the criminal, I'm the terrorist, I'm whatever they want to label they want to attach to me. Uh, Here's the thing about it. I'm a U.S. Army veteran. And the fact that I come home to this, to being, to spending the past going on 7 years being threatened, intimidated, harassed, attempted setup after attempted setup after attempted setup. I mean, they leave me no other recourse to follow to get anything done except an illegal one. And then if I do that, the only thing I'm doing is I'm playing their game. It's a lose-lose situation. So I'm making all this evidence. Now, the only way I can do this is to make everything known, to call everything out into the light and say, here you are, here it is. This is what you people are doing. This is what our government is doing. They are creating domestic terrorists to enforce these draconian laws for fear that terrorists will come get us. But the reality of the matter is they're creating the terrorists. They're falsifying evidence and everything else. In my case, it is one very well documented, simple case in which I can point out that all these things have happened. I can leave a trail of breadcrumbs to show where all these things have happened. Among these is a copy of my phone records from Sprint. Now, this shows where I called the FBI's field office, and FBI agent Michael Hayden called me back twice. Now, he called me back twice because the first time he called me back, he was trying to get me to admit on the phone to making threats against him and the police and everything else, which I wasn't going to do because my original threat was made so that if you got a warrant for me, then the warrant would show that I could get motion of discovery and get the phone records from the recorded phone conversation because all phone conversations are recorded to the police, so that I could prove that he threatened me, which basically would show a conspiracy between him and these police officers, um, to falsify evidence against me and everything else. When that didn't work, he called me back a third time trying to talk to me, and I pretended to go along as if I was had some sort of psychotic delusional rant or something, and then ripped the battery out of my phone mid sentence talking to him. I ended up at the time this first occurred, I was walking around in circles uh, in front of the public library here in Beckley, West Virginia. I then walked down the end of this dead end street, caught a small path through a tree line, and hit the bike trail. Started walking towards New River Park, and then took the battery out before I got to where the bike trail splits off. One path goes to New River Park, the other path goes around, crosses uh, the main road down there by what used to be Value City, well at the time was Value City, and Go-Mart and everything else, just above the red lights on top of the hill by the newspaper office. And then continues on down behind the PPG plant, comes out by Kroger's, further on down the bike trail. At the same time, the uh, uh, I did this, I split off, went like I was going to River Park, took another trail up on a hill and sat in the trees behind Captain D's, watching the police drive in circles looking for me because I could no longer track my GPS signal from my cell phone, as my cell phone no longer had a battery and was generating the signal. Since then, I've had repeated setup after setup after setup. Now, the small town corruption is bullshit. It's easily proven. There's video evidence I've got where charges brought against two of my friends, Marlo Jordan and Eric Harris, uh, when I had exculpatory evidence of a cop trying to set me up and everything else. Um, the prosecutor's office didn't want to take it. They gave me the, well, we're not an investigating office, or we're not this or that. Well, here's the problem. No, you're not an investigating office, but you are required by law to accept any exculpatory evidence. To look at any exculpatory evidence, and exculpatory evidence is evidence which can be used to clear a person's name who is accused of a crime. And being the prosecutor's office, it is your job also to hand this evidence over to your attorney, or to the defendant's attorney. The fact that I had to force the prosecutor's office to take this evidence shows a clear attempt, and I'm not even sure if they gave the evidence to Kristen Keller or not, shows a clear attempt to hide exculpatory evidence. Now, if they don't have this evidence, which I forced them to take, or they haven't turned this over to either Marlo Jordan or Eric Harris's attorney, then there's an issue of the prosecutor's office covering up evidence which can clear a person of their name, which means the entire prosecutor's office has to be investigated. Anything which they have tried, uh, any cases they have tried have to be essentially dismissed, which kills everyone in jail. Everyone's case in jail, everyone who's ever been tried through the Raleigh County Prosecutor's Office can no longer be tried. The fact that I have computers which have exculpatory evidence and a great deal of other things on them, which were taken due to the fact that I offered to testify against my uncle for molesting his son, my cousin, uh, has also come into an issue. This is further harassment. The fact that his girlfriend, Karen Carlock, claims to be an informant for the West Virginia State Police, particularly Trooper Gregory Duckworth, and since she came out of state, I'm going to assume she's part of the FBI's counterintelligence program. I do know that Brandon Smith is part of the FBI's counterintelligence program. Uh, and he's been trying to get me to show him how to build bombs and everything else, which I have no intention of doing. Um, so, again, I mean, they're doing everything they can to try to incite me to come after them, try to incite me to perform some sort of attack on them. And when this evidence comes out, I have no doubt in my mind they're not going to try to kill me or do something else. So I want this record on there to be on the record that if I do something to defend myself, then it's not a terrorist attack, it's self-defense. If I do something because the law, the legal sources, the legal portion of this government, the court system, the judiciary, the investigative bodies, or whatever, are hiding whatever criminal acts they're doing and covering up for it in order to facilitate their own crimes and hide their own crimes and everything else and blame innocent people, allow me to point out that there's a record of it. That anything I have to do to defend my life or the lives of my loved ones or my family or my friends or anything else isn't done as a terrorist attack. It's done in self-defense. It is done because my government literally has betrayed me. My government has literally betrayed the Constitution and everything that we stand for. And given the fact that, Eric Holder is on TV talking about, well, I got to make, the law, the Constitution guarantees due process, but not judicial process. Well, here's the problem. Due process is judicial process. You can change the terms, but it doesn't change the definition, dumbass. Um, the president, Barack Obama, is up there saying that the Constitution is outdated. The Constitution is what gives him his authority. We live in a republic in which our laws are documented. They are written down, and everyone is held to uphold the law. Those laws include the laws and the codes which establish the government. Yet here he is saying it's outdated. Or saying that Congress is ceremonial. He doesn't need Congress to go to war. He can go to an international body. Okay, in order to go to an international body to get authority, you have to violate the Constitution. If you violate the Constitution, what you're claiming is outdated, you're also saying that basically you have no authority. The only authority you have is the authority that we give you, or in fact the authority that our troops give you by listening to you as Commander-in-Chief of the military. This is ridiculous. This is... This is insane. This is like something out of George Orwell's 1984. I have no choice but to allow them to arrest me or else be labeled a terrorist and a criminal and let them brainwash me, lock me up somewhere, do whatever. And this is where I don't even know what this, I don't even know how to explain this. The only thing I can do is become the criminal they want me to be. Become a terrorist, fight for my freedom, and be labeled the outlaw, the renegade, the criminal, everything else, and have my word discredited and everything else. That's why I'm making this video. That's why I'm documenting all this evidence. So there's all these breadcrumbs showing to where there's this criminal conspiracy that is so big that most of us wouldn't even believe it. And to be honest with you, I do believe it goes all the way back to the president. I've called the Pennsylvania field office and I was told, oh, well, the FBI agent just didn't put down the right name. Well, how the fuck do you forget your own goddamn name? Either the cop falsified evidence against me, or the FBI agent was covering up for his own criminal conduct. And the cop couldn't have falsified evidence against me because the FBI agent called me back twice. That's a matter of record on my phone records from Sprint. Uh, the I don't even like thinking about this. This is scary in and of itself. The only thing I can do is show the world what these people are doing. And then when they come to kill me, defend myself. And be that guy who draws a line in the sand and stands up and fights. Because no one else is going to. No one else can or will or anything else. On top of that, if it does come to that, I'd like to announce my run for the presidency as an independent. You can either have someone who gets up here and feeds you a bunch of lies and bullshit and goes along with the plan to essentially, I don't know, label everyone a terrorist and a slave to the American people. Or you can go along with the guy who says, look, I might be a criminal, but I'm the criminal they made me. And this is all the steps they've taken to make me that criminal. And bring the truth to light. This isn't just about me. This goes well beyond me. This is something that has shattered my world, turned it upside down, and destroyed my life for the past 6 years, and will continue to destroy my life until something is done about it. So what I'm giving you right now is the truth, whether you want to accept it or not. It's the truth as to what's happening. There's enough evidence here to show you that. On top of this, when I tried to get copies of my records and everything else, I was told, well, we didn't find anything as far as terrorism stuff, but, oh, by the way, we found child porn on your computer. Well, I wrote a document. In fact, I'll get it showed up here. As a statement to the West Virginia State Police, in which I wrote after my computers were taken. And I informed them that part of the big dispute that I had was against me and my uncle because he had... I had caught him trying to download child pornography onto my computer. Now, when they took my BlackBerry, they wrote the serial number down and everything else, but they never did mention the micro SD card. And I don't know if the micro SD card is on that BlackBerry. If it's missing, there's a problem because you have to take the battery off to take the micro SD out, so it doesn't just disappear. And I've always left it there. Uh, that micro SD card had a conversation between me, my uncle, and his girlfriend, who's also an informant for Trooper Gregory Duckworth, and I believe an informant under the FBI's counter intel program, in which I told my uncle that I was going to testify against him in the whole molestation of his son, my cousin issue. If that's missing, I don't know what to tell you. It's going to show there's a problem with that. The BlackBerry curves, you would literally have to take the battery off to take that micro SD card out. And considering that I was in jail at the time and hadn't took the micro SD card out, and then all this resulted as Ashley Redden had claimed that I was stalking her out to the mall again and everything else. This girl's afraid for her life, so I doubt you're going to get much of the truth out of her. When the truth does come out, you might be able to get something out of her to explain what really went down. But for the record, she has tried to protect me whenever bringing these charges against me. They tried to say that me and her had a relationship other than friends. And in a way, we did because she was like my little sister. And I went out of my way to do what I could to try to protect her, where her mom just threw her out at the mall um, unsupervised. And there's a lot of things going on out there that basically criminal. But in the scope of all this, Ashley said we were only friends. When they tried to push the issue, she was very adamant in speaking up and saying we were only friends. When they tried to say that we had nothing in common, she basically, stood there and was like, "No, we like the same music, movies, we talked about books and about where I've been overseas, and she wanted to see the world and everything else." And then, well, they called her a liar. Judge Hudson called her a liar straight to her face and found me guilty and everything else. When I tried to sue Trooper Duckworth over the whole affair, I was told by Judge Hudson I couldn't sue him because he was a member of the state police, and apparently the state police are a part of the military, which is why we have, well, Western Union State Troopers being deployed to Iraq, right? Yeah, whatever. I mean, when asked if I had ever tried to touch her or anything in any inappropriate way, she said no. Uh, when asked if she thought I was going to rape her, she said yes, but then when my attorney asked her if she always felt that way, she said she didn't feel that way until after her mom, the cop, and the prosecutor told her that I was going to rape her, which in and of itself is interesting because that's coercing a witness. Furthermore, the fact that there's video evidence on here on a completely unrelated case, the one against Eric Harris and Marla Jordan, in which the prosecutor's office didn't want to accept exculpatory evidence, which would prove that the cops were trying to set me up by arresting and harassing Marla Jordan and Eric Harris. Also goes so far as to say that they didn't want to have evidence to prove their innocence, and I'm willing to bet they haven't took that evidence and entered it into the file or given it to anyone else. Just simply said, "Oh well, we're just going to walk away with it." I talked to a Captain Rogers at the Beckley Police Department as well. Explained everything to him. He was aware of the fact that Amber's grandmother tried to get me to kill Taryn Price, the fact that Taryn Price has threatened Amber's family, which is the reason she's with him. That there's evidence on there which basically makes it seem makes it gives you everything but an admission of guilt in that Amber's grandmother is allowing Taryn to threaten Amber's mom and sister, and to do so under the for the sake of hurting Amber, basically. I mean, pretty much. I don't know how to explain this. pandering. And at the time, Amber was a minor, so the idea of pandering a minor, um, for the sake of a way of punishing Amber because her step grandfather raped her, and then her grandmother made her go into court and lie and say that she made that up against her step grandfather because I don't know what reason she gave for doing it, but basically made her go there and say that she made it all up. When in fact it really happened. I mean, it, and she even goes so far after me pressing and pressing and pressing that, oh, Amber's grandfather or step grandfather, Dutch as they call him, I forget his real name, that's his nickname, uh, has spent too much time in jail as is. So uh, there's an interesting question there as to exactly how far everything wants to go. Furthermore, this actually relates back to another issue I've had with a person over the internet by the name of Phil Elmore, who works for Paladin Press as an author. He also works on a couple different things. Who called down here and interfered with a business that I was running, or a free counterterrorism, civilian counterterrorism course, in which I pointed out to. Which the idea of was to point out that you can that a civilian's task in counterterrorism isn't so much to carry a weapon and try to stop the terrorist, but to be aware, be educated in the terrorist strategies and tactics and such, to know what signs to look out for, and to essentially observe, be aware of those things, avoid the threat of a terrorist attack before it becomes the danger of a terrorist attack, and to report that to the proper authorities so that SWAT teams or whatever counterterrorism units can be called in. A lot of this was based on my level 1 counterterrorism training from the U.S. Army. But as it all kind of plays out at the moment, and she threatened to have, I'm friends with captains in the police department, blah, 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 which would kind of go back to this. So, I mean, this shows a continual conspiracy of criminal activity. In fact, that's also going to be a recording of this off my voicemail is going to be included in the video that I'm submitting now, so that we can start looking into this and see exactly how far this conspiracy goes from all these different people, groups, and stuff associating. And the reality of the matter is, there needs to be a. Oh, I mean, this is the start of it, just where it's affected my life and basically caused problems in my life on a personal and professional level, to the extent that you need to go that this is a clear sign that we need to investigate the FBI's counterintelligence program. That the doors need to be opened, everything needs to be laid out. If this program isn't shut down, then the FBI needs to be held accountable for being the terrorists they are. In fact, this program should be shut down while we're looking at the FBI for inciting terrorist incidents, and look at our government for inciting their own terrorist incidents. From this point on, I'm sorry, but this is enough. This right here is just the start of the tip of the iceberg, but it makes the entire argument that Osama bin Laden worked for the CIA, um, that 9/11 was an inside job, and all these other claims, which would be considered wild and conspiracy, wild conspiracy theories, and just out there crazy. It makes them all seem real, and it shows that they might be covering up something far more insidious than just harassing